Hello, welcome to episode 118 of the live drawing stream. I am Ian Chase Nichols, and I hope everybody's having a lovely evening. Tonight we're working on page 41. I'll show off the prelim. Actually, we'll look at the prior pages so it gives you some extra context. I've got two finished pages that I posted on social media and things already. Here's page 39 that we worked on together on this stream. We have Professor Prawn connecting these two wires dramatically, and then the lights on the front of the correlator's vessel light up because it finally worked what he was working on. We've got Undersea Hero and the correlator, and then you can see correlator is just basking in his moment is at hand, that moment of victory. And then 39 will obviously be on the left side, and the facing page is actually a big splash page where we see Professor Prawn and the machine working, the big machine inside of the vessel. We've got some fun, as they call it, Kirby crackle. I throw some spatter in there just for some extra zip. Then we have what you can see here. I don't love drawing machines, so I tend to draw what I consider to be paneled off story development devices. And in this case, you see these little lines moving up here, and they're just, when this is colored in, that'll just look like motion. Hey, Michael. And then on this piece down below, we see it's framed. We use the machine to frame our character. And then down below, you see this, and you can see the silhouettes of the Krill Force. And Krill Force is what they've been trying to summon. It's this deadly army of krill. And if you know anything about krill in the ocean, it's not very big. So you need lots of them. You need legion, as it were. And I just add stuff that looks kind of cool. Like I'll add some different lighting elements. Like these will have lights in the middle of them. And then this, I imagine this being a part that like spins like gears. I try to think of a Kirby machine, but I definitely don't draw anything like Jack. So, there's a very different finish to it, but I hope to invoke that sort of feeling when I'm working on something like this. And then on page 41, we cut back to where we were on page 38 in that lunchroom, and we show those two gentlemen talking in the lunchroom, and you can see those big fuel tanks that surround the little lunch area, the commissary, the Spongeman's commissary. And this fuel tank is leaking. You can see the fuel dripping down, and then you can see it's starting to go behind the sink and behind these electronics towards the microwave, which he is currently using. We then pull in on our characters, pose a question. Hey, are you here for the alarm that's going off? And he's like, nah, man, I'm here on break. And he just tells him, I'll be done with the microwave shortly. And we see a little high voltage sign right here. We see the power outlet, and then he taps on it, tap, tap, tap. He says, I'll be done with the microwave shortly. And then we pan back to Undersea Hero and Liquid Lad facing off against that giant light that they had. So we have to show the strong light source, and then we'll match the color. It's going to be like a greenish yellow. And then these characters will be basically in monotone to tie the storytelling together with the coloring. And then we have a round panel, which is actually one of my favorite comic book things. I love a circular panel on a page. And it's, in this case, Undersea Hero pulls out his undersea radio and calls the one thing, the one person who he thinks can give him guidance in this moment of turmoil. And that is a character called Radio Bear. Radio Bear is one of my favorite things in this whole project. He makes very little sense. He is a bear on a desert island where a plane had crashed, and there is a radio there. And I won't spoil the joke until you see the next page, but it's very simple. It's a very simple concept. It's a bear with a radio. But you can see I've kind of blocked out Like I do it very lightly. I will block out the shot that I want. And then here I just kind of um, went in and did my faces for the most part, just the gesture and the face and get the start of the expression. This shot will be a little bit tricky, so I kind of left that loose, but what I like to do is carve out the sections, the spacing, the amount of space that things take up in a panel. And I really think there's value in that because you don't lose your proportionality and you're not necessarily um, reacting to the panel borders. And that's something that I see a lot of artists do, even on big two books, is you'll see that a line, even though it should not react to a border because it doesn't exist in the character's world, you'll see that the character reacts to it. Like they'll tilt their head a little, or a line will curve away from that border. It just, the artist is reacting to the edges of space rather than the scene itself. And it's something I did for a very long time. So I'm not saying that, I'm immune to that. If you look at some of my earlier works, you can absolutely see where I did not put a definitive crop, or I did not put a definitive um, compositional placement of my elements within the borders properly. I was purposes. Uh, as far as from a storytelling perspective, is that there are very, very short moments in time between the panels. These scenes are happening concurrent to one another, so you will have parallel moments that react with one another. So when I put my preview, we'll get to work. Not sure what I did with my cell phone. Not that I need it right now, but it would be an easy way for me to pull up, grab one other thing. So we can always as we go. I might start right here just because it helps me get to sort of finish something. And this is the most simple shot to me because this is a framing, and then only speech balloon that's in here is right here. And we've carved out this space for it. Here there are two. There's one that'll be right here that's pointing towards the person, and then there'll be another one right here that sort of curves this way with the tail. Here we have this one, and then one here. And then the idea being is that you're also, in addition to using this to frame, I'm using the negative space, the placement of the balloons, and everything to hopefully actually think this one should be a little lower. Leaky. Even a little better. Oh, my screen got a little weird. I don't know why that happens, but I had a couple of people message me, one on Instagram and one on Facebook, about the Baltimore Comic-Con tick books. I do have copies, but I'm just not set up to fulfill orders at the moment. So whenever I reopen my online store or have an appearance, those will be available. I don't know when, so. But that also serves the first 15 minutes or so of 5 minutes. It's the current Undersea Hero update. Hope everybody has something nice to do for Halloween, should they wish to. Kind of looking forward to this year because it's the first year where I've lived on the first floor of a building on Halloween. So, like, I actually get to hand out candy and um, dress up and have a little fun that way. Usually, I'm on the second or third floor, and you can't really you know walk all the way downstairs, or no, it's not usually your responsibility of the building to hand out candy that day. So, you working on anything good tonight, Michael? Penciling or inking a page? There's this part. Goes like that. Honestly, I do really just enjoy drawing little like portraits. It's a nice, relaxing thing to do. When I'm doing other work stuff, you'll see on like the back of a piece of paper that I'll just draw different faces and stuff. It's always kind of just been my go-to for a relaxing sketch. Oh, Michael finished his comic book, his comic strip book. Congratulations! Round of applause. Round of applause. That's very exciting. Got it proofread and everything. Good for you, man. Always an accomplishment. Do anything to celebrate? Did you have something nice for dinner? All right, you're gonna kickstart it. Cool. Actually, I have to a drawing for Allison into my schedule. I owe her a piece for her upcoming book. I'm happy to share it when it goes live. So Michael says he celebrated with a good night's rest. Good point. Fair point. That sounds delightful. Absolutely. Always happy to help my friends who have their books putting their work out there. It's just me having some herbal tea. I feel like lately I've actually kind of gotten into a page finishing groove. That's a nice feeling. I'm sure the other artists can relate. Sometimes it's a struggle, but like the last, I would say, couple pages, and then this page, it's been flowing a little bit better than it had been for a while. Not quite sure why. I wish I could figure that out. There's sometimes I struggle really really hard to finish a page, but then there's other times where I can just get into a groove. This little orange sponge that sits on his head. I think I'm gonna have to make one of these. Make one out of foam with like some ping pong balls. One of my little sponges. And then I could just put it on like a headband or something. Like that would be an easy way to shill my book at a convention or something. Although I don't know. I don't know how many conventions I'm gonna be doing annually anymore. We'll see. There was a time actually when I only did, 2 or 3 shows a year. And that was the standard. There was a point where I was actually working on, and I'm sure everybody else does this, the turnarounds for these characters. I didn't do formal ones. I did do like, just rough sketches in my sketchbook just to figure things out. And there were points with the Spongeman, both with the vintage scuba masks, the original Cousteau scuba masks, and the sponges and the profile, where I actually just kind of ignored the anatomy and the shape, where I just said this looks better this way. Yeah, the Little Giant show. That is one of my favorite shows, and Jason has always been a big supporter of mine. So I told him if he had a spot for me anytime, I'm happy to be there. It's also another one where I have a free place to stay for the time being, and you know, all I am is a table and a happy face to be there. The smart thing would be to book a million conventions with the new book coming out, but I'm really just trying to focus on getting this thing done. I don't want anything to get in the way of that. If that means it takes me an extra year to be the promo guy, then so be it. I want everybody to get their books. I'm interested to see the thing come together. Like there's some things that I'm certain are going to work, and there's some things that I'm interested to see if people find them as funny as I do. Things like Radio Bear. Honestly, if he didn't have me as a guest, I would go as an attendee, and I missed out on some shopping. They had like there was a booth that had treasury editions for like 20 bucks a pop, and I missed out. There's like 3 or 4 that I'm still looking for, and they're not the big ones, they're just some of the obscure ones. I'm missing the Red Nails Conan Treasury Edition. I'm missing something else, another one. I don't remember what it was. I don't have lists for those things. I did find the Alex Toth Super Friends one at one of those deals where there was a bin for $20 for the treasuries. Obviously, like the Muhammad Ali Superman or the Superman Spider-Man or the Superman Wonder Woman, those are all, bigger ticket items. On the back of this, we have to show that the wire is like taped together, that there's like a little bit of an exposure, and we can show some zapping going on. Oh, actually had to go up the other way. Michael says John Romita Jr. will be at Rhode Island this year. Yeah, he's their big name this year for comic book people. I actually never met John Romita Jr. I've been in the same room as him. I've seen him, but I've never been introduced. I met his dad. I met John Romita Sr. At a store signing, but I never met John Romita Jr. Senior was one of the guys I definitely asked for an autograph from. I had him sign a Spidey, the kids book from the 70s, the Spidey Super Stories issue 1. Because most of the John Romita Sr. stuff that I have is not in great shape, or it's a reprint. And when I get stuff signed, I don't like getting reprints signed if I can help it. Print or an original. I will not be at Rhode Island. No, had a few people ask, but I was not invited, and I've been to every single one up until this year. So they definitely know how to find me if they wanted me there. So the other name that was on the list for them that was surprising was Javier Saltares. He did He did the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider when it first came back in the 90s, before Mark Texeira took over the book. When he kind of was like the go-between, and Mark inked him for a little bit, and then he became the penciler inker. Oh, no worries, Desiree. It's a big game for you guys, so I didn't expect even a hello. So good to see you. It's a World Series, for crying out loud, and your team's in it. Are you there? Are you at the game? That's all right. We all know Desiree's the super Dodger fan of our crew, so it makes perfect sense. Right now, I'm just kind of chunking out where I think everything goes, and what we have to have is. I wanted his hand set away from his face a little bit initially, but I actually think I'm going to tighten it up. I wanted an old-fashioned radio that looked like something that kids play with on the playground. I'll make room for my chair. So I can relax. I was actually pretty darn tired when I got home today. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but dinner gave me a little bit of a second wind. Figure out where the cheekbones are. Even on a goofy character like Undersea Hero, I still have to like map out where the cheekbones and everything are. As we can see, he's got like a look of urgency is what I would like to bestow upon him. He's looking slightly up, so you can see the underside of his nose. So we've got to just kind of chunk out approximately how big his nose has to be. Where's the center line and everything. And then his mouth is open. Eye sockets would be like this. Ear would come out this way. Sometimes I draw him with just the most ridiculous neck, like on the planet. He just has like a neck that's looks like a tree trunk. I don't know. You can see that I'm thinking about the perspective. I'm thinking about stuff, and I'm just kind of chunking it out right now. And I can make edits to it. You know, this is not the final form. And we know that the radio has to be set back a little bit more, just a little bit, and then comes back to where his thumb should be, so that it can go that way. I like to intentionally make it not to make it not symmetrical, make it asymmetrical, because I think that you can save yourself a lot of frustration in the anatomy when you do that. And it's good for the exaggerated features. Here's where the edge of that would be. Because the cheekbones, when you look at them on the skull, they wrap around the orbital bone, and they can be at a different angle as they approach where the nasal passage is. And this is all stuff that I've internalized. It's sometimes tough to even talk through it out loud, but it's helping a little bit to make sure that I don't forget things. I actually think I want to raise up his tongue a little bit. He doesn't have the flat tongue, like if you ever see how I draw the tick's tongue. It's like this flat thing, more ribbon-like. There's the orbital bone, right, like that. And again, we're cartooning, but in order for it to be believable, there's certain like benchmarks that people look for that ground it, that I think help people relate to the character a little bit. It doesn't have to be realistic, but there are certain things that define and make the humanity a little bit more readable. There we go. That's a good angle right there. And then the neck comes down like this, like this. I thought about just doing the floating head, but I wanted to go with the round panel. And I believe I have caught up on my messages from Baltimore. So if there's anybody that I owe a email to from Baltimore still, just drop me a message. I think I'm caught up on everything, but I very well could have missed one or let one slip through the cracks. Or one thing I have noticed lately is that I keep getting more and more invites to like stuff on Facebook. And it's stuff that I have absolutely no interest in following. So I leave it in limbo in the invites. That way I can't get, because there was a time where I declined one, and then every time I declined it, they kept resending it to me, and I eventually had to block that person. I don't know if I've ever actually sent an invite to like any of my stuff, ever. Just don't want to interrupt anyone's day with my nonsense. The other thing that I wanted on this panel is like your classic lightning bolts, because he's talking on the radio. These I'll just eyeball. I think that's enough. You don't want too many. One of the things I've been guilty of is putting too many little lines on things. So that's a pretty good UH face right there. Especially with neutral lighting. It's always easier to have a direct light than it is to do neutral light, for me at least. I find neutral lighting to be the hardest because you have to draw everything. You can't hide anything behind a shadow. You kind of put all the flaws out there for people to judge. Got to show the little button on the side. And then every good superhero puts his little logo on everything. So you put the U that looks like a magnet with. But you can see the slight differences between this drawing and the prelim. Because when I see this, does it basically tell the story? Yeah. Could it be better? Yeah. Especially with the angle, the nose, just the overall structure of the face. Um, and I think that this does achieve some of that. It's not perfect, but I think it's better than the prelim, which rarely happens for me. I usually I would say I almost always side on the prelim being better in my mind because I have that attachment with that creative moment, that creative breakthrough of like, oh, this solves this visual problem. It's one of the reasons why I've actually started experimenting with not doing any sort of prelim and just going from plot to page because I don't want to lose that momentum. That was something I fought pretty hard on this project, and I think it led to me having trouble. Like I was always working, but it just was not at the pace it needed to be. Bring this down like that. All right, let's grab our number 2 pencil lead. Let's get in there. Try not to overdraw anything. I definitely exaggerate the teeth because I think it fits with with the style of this book. There we go. Orbital bone. Cheekbone. And his chin is shaped like a boot. Talked about it many times. It's like a cartoon boot. Seems like a fair number of people had Halloween parties tonight to go to, so uh, There's that yawn. There's that first yawn. Don't worry, we'll at least make it till 9. So I feel like I'm drawing okay, which is surprising, but I'll take it. Today was kind of a stressful day, so sometimes when the day is stressful, it's hard to sit down and be creative at night, or I feel like I'm fighting it, but it feels like it's moving pretty well. Not overanalyzing it. I'm just trusting the hand. I'm using some line confidence to make up for a little bit of eyeballed stuff, and I'm okay with it. I'm not, immediately saying I'm the worst artist that ever lived. I have those days. I think everybody has those days. It's like, oh, why would anybody even look at this? It's so terrible. Definitely have those days. But in the end, this is a creator-owned project, and the only person that is going to have to look at it the longest is me. Nobody else. Although I won't lie, I have a bit of seller's remorse, and I haven't even let go of some of the pages yet. And I know that they were bought during the Kickstarter, so I don't know. Just have to make sure I have high res copies of everything. Of course, being Undersea Hero, we're going to have not perfect panel borders, so it's not going to be a perfect circle. It's going to be based on a perfect circle. I traced a little salad bowl because I didn't have any templates that were big enough. Hey, Brendan, good to see you. Yeah, I'm working my tail off to make it happen. Believe me, I wish it was done today, but such is the journey. But thank you. I'm glad you've got the motivation and the gusto. I'll use some of that to fuel me to keep on keeping on. Yeah, I look forward to bringing a little bit of silliness to everybody that backed its comic collection. Do I think it's possible that somebody reads it and just immediately throws it in the garbage? Of course, that's my self doubt right there. Have to have a hefty dose of that. Gotta work on this hand a little bit. A little bit thicker line here. Yeah. There we go. It's a pretty good Undersea Hero face. There are going to be some panels I'm going to have to go back and redraw when I finish all the pages. It's just how I work. And it's just a way to hopefully unify some of the later pages and the earlier pages a little better. Usually when I'm drawing this long on any project, I've already changed my style or something. And this time I've been working very hard to keep it consistent throughout so that there's no jarring visual about face halfway through, which I've definitely done in a book before. especially when you're first starting out, like when you're first starting to really do pages. Every page gets better just by doing them. So if you're on your first, let's say 100 pages, no, 1 through 50 is going to look way different than 51 to 100. But yeah, this is the first mention of Radio Bear, which these are 2 pages that are of probably no consequence to very many people that I will, definitely have to keep. On the next page, it's basically a shot of a tropical island, and then there's like a plane crash, and then there's a bear with headphones and a radio talking to Undersea Hero and some talking head panels. Or is he talking? That's just one of those secrets that will never be revealed. And I hope to have stuff like I always like books like that that had things that they didn't explain, and just as a reader or a kid, you're asked to like jump on and buy into the logic. You know, I like that kind of stuff. It's one of the reasons I enjoyed the fantasy genre. Even some there's some pretty crummy fantasy books that I still like, just because for one reason or another, the world, its internal logic, just appealed to me, even if the plot was lacking or the characterizations were lacking. It's another world of entertainment. Those genre novels, especially those of like the 1960s and 70s, where if you had just a little bit of characterization to go with an okay plot, you were in the upper 10%. There were so many bad books published at that time, and you know, for so many reasons, they just kept pumping them out. Some of my favorite books of all time were published back then, but I would say the genre fiction stuff, they just flooded the market because there was such a demand for it. Then Star Wars hits, and then you have to have a million Star Wars esque books, shall we say. And here you can see just real easily when I number speech balloons, these are relatively small bits of dialogue. Um, there's one big speech balloon right here. And then there's another one down here. And we'll get to work on these ones here. We'll work till 9. I think that's a good time to call it tonight. I'm sure you folks remember when I would like push for 2 hours and just keep going. That really took it out of me for a while. He's got one eyebrow raised, and the other one he's got kind of down like that. Again, doing stuff that is asymmetrical, I find it very helpful in defining volume and shape better than I used to, in a much better way. Eyes are a little far apart on this, but that's all right. Might slide it over when I ink it. Let me take a look on the other side. Actually, it's not bad. Okay. All right. It's just because it's a giant head. I don't draw a ton of giant heads. One of the rewards I'm actually looking forward to working on is the little field guide that was one of the stretch goals. I think that'll be a fun one to work on. So it'll just be mostly just drawing little sea creatures. There's the cheekbone. Orbital bone. I actually think we gotta lose this little bit right here just because his mouth is open. Yeah. We're gonna have to raise up that part of his chin a little bit, that part a little bit. Yeah, I might have to tweak the jaw on this a little bit. Don't love the jaw. I have to push the mouth back a little bit. Some of this we can have a little fun with just because of the amount of shadow that's going to be on this shot. So we can take a little bit of creative license and actually just ignore drawing some of this stuff. Like right now, what I'm doing is really just uh, what I would call blocking it out with all of the filled in areas. Because this will be all filled in. This will be all filled in. I don't do a ton of heavy shadow panels because I don't like to overdo it. I find them effective uh, when not overused. And I know that there are some artists that just do shadow after shadow after shadow, and that's their thing. But especially for this type of book, I don't think that it is. I don't think it. I think it makes the reader's eye just get too used to that, and I don't. I don't know. I like more of a punch with that sort of a thing for this book. Maybe there will be another book if I've got a couple of horror ideas where I'll try to do the reverse, and just use the bright panels for the punch. I know Mignola's just incredible at that when he does his pacing for his storytelling. He'll have just like almost no light for a full page, and then you have the page turn, and there will be a big spotlight shot or something. This we don't need this right in front of us. There we go. Go. Got our foreshortening, but it's understated, so it's not like it's, you know, an in-your-face bit of foreshortening. It'll be blacked out, so we can just get the shape of it. Same thing here, where the rib cage is. There we go. Eli, good to see you, man. Yeah, we're only going to be working for a little while longer. But, yeah, always good to see you. We've made it to page 41. We have. We got like 14 pages left. 16 pages, something like that. I'm losing my gusto, so we're probably gonna wrap it up here. I just wanted to chunk in the rest of this figure so that people could see it, and then I'll show off the finished pages one more time, and we'll finish up today's stream. I hope everybody that's working on something. A lot of people are working on. I wish them all the best with their current project. Again, round of applause for Michael for finishing his newest book, which is very exciting. I will have to check it out. Probably gonna have to redo that hand tomorrow. Just chunk this out. That's where that'll be. Here, we're gonna just have the two figures and no background, I don't think, for there. No, actually, we're gonna need it there. My mistake. So we have that link up with the round panel. And we cut it off here. All right. Well, I feel like we did pretty well in our hour together. I'll show off those other two pages. I posted them on socials, but it's always good to see them a bit. Here's those pages. Page 39. Professor Prawn putting the wires together that activate the machine. You can see the eyes light up, so that's our indication that it works. And then we have the gloating of the correlator. And then we show the big giant machine on the splash page on 40. Kirby Crackle and everything. And then we see Krill Force, the first silhouettes of Krill Force as they are being processed through the machine. And then there is one page that I'm terrified to work on that's coming up. It's the one after the next one. So thank you, Michael. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you and see everybody. I hope everybody that celebrates has a happy and safe Halloween, and hope to see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.